What's up, everybody? My fantasy podcast peeps. Thanks for dropping in on us again. Sorry we missed last week. Things happen. We're like a special attraction now. You catch us when you can, So we do apologize for that. But we got questions. We reserved the questions from last week. We'll address them and talk to you about them. So going to be a different show. As you notice, I'm in a new studio in the new home. So a new breed studio, a new breed studio for you. So in case you're wondering where I'm at, I'm not in a crazy motel or anything like that. This is the new studio for me anyway for now. So I change other things in the house and then maybe I might move on. But thanks for joining us, My Fantasy Podcast. A lot of NFL, a lot of fantasy football going down today. That's what we'll talk about. Just a two-man show today. Myself, Brandon Reed, and my co-host Dan Schalk. What up, man?
What's going on? I love the new studio, new breed studio. It rolls right off the tongue.
It sounds like something you should be able to sell, so we'll see what happens. You got my email address and Twitter. Holler at me if you want to throw money my way. I'll sponsor anything. But hey, and that reminds me, Dan, we didn't really talk about this, I think, since the last podcast. We got to deal with Heineken going on.
Yeah. Throughout the course of the season, we'll be live tweeting on not only my sports handle or Twitter handle at FF Sports Talk, but also the site's Twitter handle at My Fantasy Sports Talk. A little jumbled in there, but you'll figure it out once you type it in. And going live on Facebook. We've dealt with some technical difficulties of Facebook Live to start the year, but the plan is that we're gonna start having weekly segments on there, answering the fans' fantasy football questions leading up to submitting their lineups, which we do here on the podcast, but going live on Facebook, I think it'll bring you answers immediately instead of having to wait for our show to come out. So definitely helping out more fans than we already do.
And you definitely want his opinion and take on things. That is our own Dan Schalk, because he is a future Hall of Famer of the Fantasy Sports Writer Association. I'll tell you that right now. So just me and that real talented, knowledgeable guy there. Orlando Torres had a scheduling conflict, will not be here. So did Ryan Thomas. We tried to get him on here. He was asking, when I get back on the podcast? I'm like, anytime you want to. I'm like, oh, well, I can't. Wednesday. I'm like, well, that's when the podcast is. So I'm sorry. We'll try to get him on here somewhere, or Malachi, or some one of these other guys. It's tough to get everybody together on a weeknight. But a lot of NFL,
all you really need is me and you, though, Brandon. Let's be honest.
I don't know that you even need me right now. I don't.
We'll get to that. But hey, we're battling it out for third place in our fantasy baseball playoffs right now. So
I'll let you in on a secret, no or not, because I haven't touched it since 2 weeks ago.
Well, I'm battling a fake you, and I'm winning. So
as you probably noticed, I think I had Chris Sale on the bench the other day. So
that's okay. I think he got you negative points.
Well, good, because I'm not paying attention. So you deserve third place. That's my take on that. You deserve the third place. You were the best team all year long. So you can have the third place. I'm not interested in the third place. So, man, I'm done with it. Too much going on, which I also realize, we got to start scheduling our NBA fantasy draft real soon too, because it's coming up. The season starts incredibly early this year.
Yeah, I mean, of course, I'm going to want to defend my crown. So that's a given. I actually got the email from ESPN, who we played through the other day, to reactivate our league. So whether we're going to do that, we'll add some more fans in, kind of like we did the football league. A 14-team league in NFL fantasy football is difficult. That Brandon is finding that out as we're going through the year. Not myself. Don't worry about that, guys. But yeah, I think maybe we'll do that with the basketball. Is reach out to the fans again and have them come aboard and battle us out to see if they can take either of us down.
I'm going after that. My full focus is the NBA crown. I'm pretty hurt by that. And here's the thing about championship games, and what also got me in baseball this year too. And my whole downfall kind of started with losing in the semifinals in the baseball championship, is that the later you get in the season, once your key playoffs and late season matchups are, these guys start resting. It's almost like it doesn't even matter the sport. I had a ton of guys on my fantasy baseball team start resting. I'm like, what are you doing? That kills me. So, man, I don't know. It's tough, especially in football too. If you're counting on some guys in like a week 16, week 17, you don't know who the hell is really going to play. So makes it tough. My whole slide started with the baseball, Dan, and last couple of weeks in fantasy football have not been good for me. Last week, my picks sucked. So I don't really have a lot to talk about in today's show, to be honest. I'm just here.
Yeah, well, I can give my winning picks, although I don't even think I did much better than you, Brandon. I maybe caught up a game. But yeah, last week in the NFL was crazy, just the upsets. And of course, the first 2 weeks I was able to withhold myself and put some restraint on my gambling abilities. And so week 3, I didn't do it for the first 2 weeks, just stuck to daily fantasy and my season-long fantasy. But week 3, I went out.
You did so well, too. You did so well the first 2 weeks.
Oh, I was crushing it in daily fantasy. Fantastic. And that's why it gave me the confidence to let's lay some money on the line on some teams. And, of course, I played the money line on the Patriots. I got that. But then I also parlayed that with the Steelers, and I parlayed that with the Dolphins. So it was a disastrous Sunday on my end putting those bets down. But I live to see another weekend. How about that?
Yeah, I may not. I may only have a couple left. But I started like this last year, Dan, just up and down. And embarrassing enough, I'll go ahead and admit it to the folks at home. I scored 51 points this week. I mean, I had no business even being out there, but surely that can't be an every week thing. I kind of started like that last year, though, Dan. Very low scores to start the season.
Yeah, I think you might have had a 40-pointer last year, but you came back and won the crown, so that's all that matters at the end.
Yeah, but you can see sometimes. You can see down the road. A guy may not be hot right now, but things got to go in motion. And it kind of happened with Odell Beckham Jr. last year, and Eli, struggling slow out of the gate, and kind of happening with ODB right now. Start this year too. So, but we'll get into all that. We got questions from last week, questions from this week. So let's get into it. My Fantasy Podcast from myfantasysportstalk.com. I am Brandon Reed. That is Dan Schalk. Just us two holding it down for you. So before we really dive into some of the questions from last week, Dan, do you want to talk about the hottest news going on right now in just the world period? I mean, what the question of the world is, what is going on in our society right now, man? What is going on in our society when so much emphasis is placed on the NFL now and what people are doing during the national anthem, that the president is tweeting about it, and really the country's being divided even further? What is going on? Just your total take of the whole situation.
I mean, ultimately, it's disheartening. I haven't really commented on it out in the public at all. I'm pretty active on Twitter and Facebook, but this is just something I didn't feel the need to really talk about. It's something that you don't really know how to grasp it. Obviously, there's people who like our president, and a lot of them are not NFL players. I am one of, not an NFL player, but I don't really respect our president too much. So for him to come out and say some of that stuff really hit home with me. And I don't know how to look at it and actually visualize what is actually happening in front of me, because first of all, the biggest thing that I have, is it really doing anything? All the protests and unity, is it for, the civil rights movement, or is it for just hating our president? So I don't fully understand it to be able to grasp what's going on, but I don't. My first impression when I'm looking at it Sunday, everybody's talking about it, but what is it actually accomplishing? What is it doing? And I actually don't have an answer to that. I don't know what each individual player, I think they have their own thought of what they want to accomplish by doing this. And they talk about unity, but I don't know if it's a unified effort to fix one certain thing.
Yeah, and you mentioned, what is it doing? Well, I'll also ask that of both sides. Why is it really offending people so much? Say you go to a game, okay? And look, I'm speaking for the other side here, okay? I'll tell you, yes, I'm going to stand at the national anthem. Me personally, yes, but when I go to a ball game or something like that in a formal environment where the national anthem is being played, I show respect, but I'm not looking over here, looking over there, looking to see what the next man is doing. I do not care what anyone else does. Nothing anyone in that arena could do that night would piss me off enough to, stay away or boycott or leave the game at all. I do not care. That's one of the biggest things that I think that is affecting our society today is not enough people mind their own damn business. Why do you care? One life is hard enough to lead. Okay. I don't want to lead two or more. So I don't get it. That's the point of it. I don't get it, Dan. I just, if you want to ask that question, what is it really doing exactly? I can ask that question of both sides, and I'm with you. At this point, I think it's just being carried on because our president is not helping matters at all. So you're going to see the fire brew, and that's all it is really right now. It could have ended already, but the president is fanning the flames.
Yeah. And, ultimately that's what you want to look at is what it might accomplish, but honestly I don't think anybody really knows, and I wonder what this Sunday is going to bring, whether it's going to bring more protests. I mean, I think everybody by now saw the Steelers protest and Villanueva coming out being the only one standing out, and he actually apologized for that due to his team being upset, and he felt bad that he drew attention to himself and not the team. But like when he came out and apologized for standing for the national anthem, like I don't have a side in this, but that seemed a little it leaves me speechless at times because I don't know what to think about it. I just want to watch football, and that's that's really what it is I just want to watch a game. It's a game. I know these players get paid millions of dollars, and there's you're getting the politics in sports. Ultimately that's all I care about is when the clock starts in the first quarter and ends in the fourth, what happens in between.
And I'm right there with you there. I don't really have, a fight on either side, as far as the protests go. I understand both sides, but what I do not want is a president making a demand of telling people to stand. Okay. That's what I do not want. Okay. This is not 1930s Germany. That's the kind of demands I do not want made. Is that really America? Sure, the NFL could pass a law or a rule saying everyone must stand for the national anthem, but is that really America? Is that liberty? Is that freedom? No, we're going backwards. And if that's the case, I know it pisses a lot of people off, and I understand the disrespect. I truly do. It's our national anthem, it's our flag, but it means different things to different people. Okay, step outside of your shoes, outside of your little world for a minute. So I understand both sides, and I don't understand why. Honestly, when I'm watching the game, I don't even do they even on televised games, let's say, okay, I understand maybe not going or protesting in that matter, but you watch a lot of football, Dan. I don't even remember even seeing the national anthem part unless it's like a big playoff game, the World Series or the Super Bowl or something. Am I missing that? Do they show that every single game on every broadcast?
Yeah, I mean, definitely growing up, they didn't. I think probably over the last few years, they started to because of all the media attention it's brought.
Yeah, outside that though, I understand that.
No, definitely not. Like growing up, I that's all I did on Sundays. It was watch football, and I never saw that. Like maybe the anthem was going on when the commentators first started talking about the game.
They're most likely in a commercial break.
Yep, exactly.
Most broadcasts are in a commercial break when the national anthem is being played because they don't want to sit there really. And like I said, unless it's like a big event, but they don't just want to sit there with dead air, for that right. much when they got a lot of advertising dollars to pay and sponsors to show. It's just the nature of it. So. But yeah, I just thought we'd touch on it. I think we're pretty much on the same side. Like I said, the ultimate thing to me is I understand the disrespect, but if you start demanding that everyone stand, we're going backwards, folks. We're going backwards. So let's move on. We'll talk about real football now. But that was a football topic, right? I mean, you can't even avoid that if you're a football fan right now. And I know everyone, if we haven't lost them by now, Dan, they're still fans and probably not offended by what we're saying.
Right. I mean, I couldn't get away from the topic this week, just trying to watch it, whether it be on ESPN or just listening to AM radio, sports talk radio in the car. I mean, it was nonstop. And honestly, I was like, enough already. Let's just move forward. Let's get past this and play the game and talk fantasy football, because that's ultimately what is more enjoyable.
Yeah, and I think it just boils down to either you like football or you don't. If you're really a true football fan, you don't really care about any of this when it comes to football. Saturday, Sunday, Friday nights, Thursday night, junior high, whatever. If you like football, you're going to participate and watch football. So I don't know. We'll talk about it. But last week I got called out, Dan. So I want to talk about that real quick. Mr. Dale Thomas. So when will you guys be replacing Brandon on the show? And after we didn't have a show last week, you was probably wondering that, like, oh, damn, man, they listened to Dale. I bet Dale was scared. I'm like, damn, did I really get him fired off the show? You think? Anyway, that Andy Dalton pick is such a fireable offense. I like how the Bengals have no offense with Dandy. Kind of like how the Bengals have no offense with Andy Dalton. And that was at a point where they hadn't even scored a touchdown yet after 2 games. So, question, since I own Dalton and Russell Wilson, who is also garbage, would you drop either for Simeon or Alex Smith? I get, Dan, you may have answered this question differently last week than you might right now.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Andy Dalton had a bounce back game, I think, against the Packers. I did like the Bengals to stay close in that game, and ultimately, they lost in overtime. But anytime you fire an offensive coordinator like the Bengals did, it kind of rejuvenates the offense and rejuvenates the team. I believe the quarterback coach, Bill Lazor, was promoted to OC, and he's ultimately a different type of play caller. And you saw that in week 3 against the Packers. So, while I don't think Andy Dalton's going to be a top 5 fantasy quarterback, I would rather have him over Simeon or Alex Smith and over Russell Wilson, honestly. If anybody followed the site in the preseason, Russell Wilson was my number 1 quarterback bust, and he got some points in garbage time against Tennessee last week, but he's been terrible to start the year. A lot of it on his offensive line, but it doesn't matter when you're playing fantasy. You need a solid offensive line to produce points consistently. So Andy Dalton, I would say, is the best of those 4 in fantasy football for the rest of the season.
Well, I'm happy to hear you say that. We'll see what happens. But I was kind of talking about Russell Wilson because he had more than just a few points. And I mean, he had quite a few points last week. One of those elite for the year type quarterback games is way up there. But anyway, you think he's garbage too? Dale Thomas thinks he's garbage.
Well, I mean, his first 2 weeks were, and if you look at 3.5 quarters on Sunday, yeah, I mean, fantasy football, you don't care about that. Garbage time points are vital in some leagues. So, you can't look past what he was able to do. But Tennessee's defense, I think they also started playing some cover 4s and prevent towards the end when they had a couple touchdown leads. So, I wouldn't think that would be a consistent performance from Russell Wilson every week.
Yeah, we'll see. Offensive line's still been a mess. That's what you got to overcome. So, but anyway, Dale Thomas, it ain't got much better. I'm still on the show for now, but I'm facing suspension or leave with pay anytime now, based on this fantasy performance, anytime now. So, but anyway, thanks for the question. And I'm sorry. I guess I convinced so many folks to take Andy Dalton in the drafts, Dan.
Probably like I did with Eli Manning last year. So, you felt that pain last year. Now you know what it's like to give out that info and get the hate afterwards.
But I'm honestly shocked with the Bengals, right, Dan? They got a win last week, but I'm honestly shocked because I thought they would be I thought they'd be one of the top offenses in the league. It just hadn't clicked yet. And the defense is tough, but man,
I don't think they figured out their personnel. They drafted Joe Mixon, but they didn't want to give him the ball as much the first 2 weeks. Now week 3, you started to. I think you're going to see him become more of a focal point of that offense, and that'll take some of the weight off of Andy Dalton's shoulders, and he'll find AJ Green consistently like he usually does.
Yeah, we'll see. We can wait and see and hope, because I had Marvin Lewis as the coach of the year.
Yeah, that's not going to happen.
No chance. Are you telling me there's no chance?
No chance.
Okay, so let's see what else we got going on here. Waiver wire pickup from last week, Chris Carson or Duke Johnson. Man, if you could still get Chris Carson as of last week, a week ago, you were doing pretty good, I think. Here's another one. Would you trade Le'Veon Bell for Kareem Hunt and Jeremy Maclin? That's a good one. It's probably already been decided, Josh. Josh Windsor for the question. Appreciate it. But would you have done that? I know you would have done that, Dan. Le'Veon Bell. So that's all you're giving up, and you get Kareem Hunt and Jeremy Maclin?
Yeah, the way I look at this trade is more Le'Veon Bell for Kareem Hunt. Jeremy Maclin, to me, is kind of a side piece that's going to probably stay on your bench more often than not, depending on your receiver situation.
Yeah, flex, semi-often flex play. I get it. But still, it's
But as a Hunt owner in every single league I'm in this year, it's kind of hard to say I won't take what he's producing on a weekly basis. And Brandon it was either Brandon or Orlando. Somebody said after that week 1, don't expect that week in, week out, and it's basically 3 straight weeks of it.
That was me.
Slipped my mind there. So honestly, yeah, I probably would do that. I'm not, Bell's holdout, I think, is affecting him. The Steelers' offense in general is just weird. Anytime they go on the road, Big Ben wants to suck, and that's honestly kind of what he's done. And was this a half-point PPR league or?
Yeah.
I don't know if it says that. But,
the former question was, yeah.
Yeah, so either way, I think I want Kareem Hunt this year. It might be blasphemous if you look at Le'Veon Bell's past, but he hasn't shown it this year. He's going to have some good games, but I just like Hunt. I just think in that offense, he's going to be getting the ball consistently. And even Le'Veon Bell, his rushes have been pretty low to start the year.
Man, I can't even argue at this point. I guess I'd have to go Kareem Hunt too. It's just all falling in place. You nailed that one, Dan. By a landslide. So here we go. Here's some more props to you, Dan. I mean, you've just been crushing it as of late, which you are 3-0, by the way, too. Dan, got to give you props. I thought Eric Decker was the wide receiver to own in Tennessee, but after reading your dislike of him, I was able to trade him before week 2 for Hunter Henry. Think that's a good move. I also got Jimmy Graham as my other tight end. So who is your de facto starter each week without even looking at matchups? Henry, Caldwell, giving you some props, Dan. It's a multi-layered question there, but I was with you for Decker there. I got on to some Tennessee Titans fans and some message boards too, and some of them were thinking he was their number 1 wide receiver. I mean, are you guys crazy? Where does that come from? It's not even gonna be close, but I mean, you had him way down there even further than that.
Yeah, I mean, I have him not even rosterable in most 12-man or deeper leagues, in 12-man and under leagues. I wouldn't even own Eric Decker. Obviously, that Corey Davis injury, that hamstring, yeah, that's something I'm kind of upset I was slightly right about because it has lingered. I drafted him in one of my main money leagues, hoping that I can sing some praise Brandon's way. He looked good week 1.
Well, and that's also helped Eric Decker too. Eric Decker would have already been probably 5th on the depth chart if it wasn't for that injury, because Taywan Taylor is doing well. So.
Yeah. So Eric Decker, I wouldn't, I would stay away from him as I said all year. Now with the trade that you did, you got Hunter Henry. He gave another offer last week, not catching a single pass. So 2 out of 3 weeks he got 0 points. I liked Hunter Henry. I have him in our work league, and I've played him those 2 weeks that he's gotten 0. But I still like his chances moving forward. Now Jimmy Graham got involved in the Seattle passing game a little bit last week. I think he had 7 catches for 70 some odd yards. So I think it's ultimately, I don't know if you're going to have a de facto starter every week. You're going to have to look at matchups and kind of play it based off of that. But if history says anything, play Hunter Henry this week because coming off an 0 for game, he follows it up with at least 6 or 7 catches in his short career.
And he's still the most talented receiver or tight end at this point for the Chargers. Yeah. I mean, Antonio Gates is great, but Hall of Famer. Is he a Hall of Famer, Dan? I mean,
Oh yeah. I think he has the record for most. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, I'm not diminishing him, but he's been in the league at least 15, 16 years now. I mean, it's been a long time.
Yep, definitely a long time.
So, I mean, he's just aging. So Hunter Henry is the stud on that team. Make no mistakes about it. It's just the chemistry is between those two with Gates and Rivers is going. It's there. It's glue. It's on. So just got to let that play out. But I like the move. So let's see. I knew we had a question talking about AJ Green here. So let's hit on this one right quick. This is from last week. So it's from Neil Gallagher. I've been offered AJ Green for Kareem Hunt. He has Hunt. My other running backs are Gurley and Lynch. Should I accept this deal and give away Hunt? So AJ Green for Kareem Hunt while he's got Gurley and Lynch. What do you think, Dan?
No, I think if you are an owner of Kareem Hunt, he is untouchable. I wouldn't trade him for basically any package of players. I wouldn't touch him at all. So I like AJ Green, but I just don't. I don't think it's worth it. I'm not Sean Lynch. I think he's going to be pretty bad. So saw what he did last week. I think he had under 10 yards on 9 or 10 carries. So I'd stay away and keep Hunt and reap the rewards that way.
Yeah, I agree. You don't get rid of Hunt, not when that Bengals are playing like they're playing. I mean, you're talking to Mr. Bengal here. Like I said before, I just had Marvin Lewis as the coach of the year. I had them one game away from the Super Bowl in my predictions. So it ain't happening. But something's just wrong with that team, man. And Green's going to consistently get his, but I just don't have any faith in this offense in general for him to be fed like the elite player that he typically has been in years past. So I don't see that, man. I'd hang on to your running back, man. I'd be starting all three of them guys probably every week, Dan. Honestly, I'm starting. If those are my three running backs, I'm starting Hunt, Gurley, and Lynch probably every single week. Hello. Are you with me, Dan? And also, that I noticed that was a question for this week too. So, yeah, that one made it on both lists. So we answered 2 questions there, but may have some technical difficulties with Dan here. We'll try to get him back on here. But so from the question from Neil Gallagher is it brought up last week, but I knew it was still relevant. It felt like it was relevant, so we kept it on here and we'll answer it. So that was another one of our questions for this week. So we got one less of those to do, but Kareem Hunt, man's just killing it. Let me talk about one more here. So because this is the guy I got on my team here. Let's see what this says. This is from last week from Wayne Laporta. I thought Ted Ginn was going to be a good pickup this year. Dude is absolutely garbage. Man, why? We're calling so many players garbage. I mean, absolute garbage. Russell Wilson is garbage. Ted Ginn is garbage. Seriously, guys, come on now. Should I drop him for Willie Snead, Allen Hurns, or Cole Beasley? Wayne Laporta. I got Ted Ginn, and I'm not giving up on him because you know what the Saints do, man. You know what the Saints do. They pass the ball, and he just hadn't got his yet. It goes around. You know, it's a merry-go-round as far as Drew Brees and his passing game. So he just hadn't had his big games, but I'm probably not going with Willie Snead. Allen Hurns, possibly if Blake Bortles can keep having decent games because he's his number one guy now. And then Cole Beasley depends on if it's a PPR league. If it's a PPR league, then I like Cole Beasley a lot in PPR leagues because Dak seems to be comfortable with him, and I like Cole Beasley there. So that's going to wrap up some of the questions from last week. Sorry we couldn't get to all of those last week. Sorry we couldn't get the podcast going last week for you guys. Just a scheduling conflict. So that's it. Let's do new questions and get Dan Shaw, give Dan time to get back in here. But this is a good one. And I hope this is still relevant for you. Jeff Hinlin. Okay. So he's got a buddy wants to do a trade. His question is, hey guys, my buddy wants to trade away Amari Cooper and he wants either Lamar Miller or Derrick Henry from me. Is this a trade I should be interested in? So Amari Cooper is typically one of those elite receivers that you would want to have since last year, I believe, so it really is going to depend on who your other receivers are. That's the biggest question. I know if Dan was here and we'll get Dan back on, but if he was here, he would say, trade away Lamar Miller because Lamar Miller is garbage. Man, I like Miller. Miller has been consistent. He knows what he's been doing. He's been doing it a little bit under the radar this year. But Amari just potentially can do more. That's the bottom line. Amari can potentially do more. And then Derrick Henry, who knows, after what DeMarco Murray did last week against Seattle, they want to get DeMarco more involved and really solidify that he is the starter, than running back number one. You don't really know what to do with Derrick Henry. So I don't know. I would definitely consider the trade depending on you know who your receivers are, who your other options are at receiver. So Dan is having some technical difficulties, so just bear with us. I'll back up for you guys, and maybe he can jump back in here. So let's just take a little quick break here before we get into more of these fantasy mailbag questions from you guys.